Hi, everyone. Welcome to Gentle Yoga. We're here on Sunday morning, and my name is Micki Josi. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm just going to do a little quick intro about me and what brings me to teaching yoga, and then we're going to get started with a gentle yoga class. Since this is our first class, it might be a little bit shorter than future classes, hopefully. Let's see. I'm from Oregon. I took my first yoga class actually at U of O. I went to U of O and I'm from Oregon City, Oregon. And then I moved to Eugene and I took Kundalini and Hatha. And I was just really fascinated by them. And throughout my life, I've kind of come and gone from yoga. I had a really amazing healing experience. It's pretty much life-changing when my friend wanted to go to Costa Rica, and we spent a week at a yoga retreat center, Pura Vida, I think it was called. And anyway, it was just really life-changing at the age of 30 because I was dealing with quite a bit of health complications even into my late 20s. And I was a math teacher. I moved to New York City and I was a middle school and high school special ed and math teacher there for 9 years. And then I decided to move back to Oregon where I met my husband, and we were trying to have a baby, and it didn't end up happening for us because it turned out I had uterine cancer. So I was actually in my recovery from having hysterectomy. I kind of came back to yoga, and I was really just like, I set up actually my garage space out here. This is where I am right now, in my, what I call the So Fine studio. So I was just out here kind of practicing yoga on my own. And I thought, well, I don't really know as much as I could know. And it was something that I was inspired to go to yoga teacher training, really just so that I could learn more about my own health, my own body. And I found it to be so healing. And then I was like in the yoga teacher training thinking, well, if I don't practice teaching, I know I'm a math teacher. So if I don't practice teaching, then I'm not going to learn how to teach. So I started practicing teaching yoga, and that's what brings me here. So I'm here practicing teaching you as well. I consider yoga to be like a very personal thing. And so all of our bodies are incredibly unique and diverse. And I think that what I want to inspire students to do is learn to connect with your body in such a way that you are your own best teacher. And so I'm just giving you ideas, suggestions, and tools to help you connect to your own unique body. And so anyway, one of my favorite books that I've come across in teaching yoga is called The Yamas and the Niyamas. This one is by Deborah Adele, and she talks about yoga's ethical practices. So yoga, what I've learned through my teacher training is that oftentimes it's just connected to movement, but it really is so much more than that. We have what's called 8 limbs of yoga, and asana, which is movement, is one of those limbs. And then another limb is pranayama, which is our breath work. And then 2 of the limbs are the yamas and the niyamas. And these are 10 ethical practices. So the very first one, which we will, throughout the series, we're going to actually explore each one. So we have 10 classes in the series, and there are 10 yamas and niyamas. How perfect is that? The first one is nonviolence, then truthfulness, non-stealing, non-excess, non-possessiveness. So those 5 are called the yamas. And then the niyamas, these are kind of more internal, personal, how we deal with ourselves. These are purity, contentment, self-discipline, self-study, and surrender. I just read them from the outline of the book. So to get started, I love using props in class because I really think that props can help build up the floor, bringing it more accessible. You are welcome to also practice yoga in a chair, on a couch, or in a bed. So I'll give you those options. And then I like to use blocks. Of course, you don't have to go out and buy a bunch of supplies. So if you don't have blocks, you could find something get creative. Maybe you could find a big textbook, like a math textbook would be great, right? But I have blocks here, and I love to use the blocks to help me get up and down from the floor. And that's something that people often feel like is a barrier to yoga, is getting up and down from the floor is really hard, actually. So it's not expected. You don't have to do that. You can also use, like I said, a bed or a chair. Bring the floor up to you is welcome in this class. I have a yoga mat, and then you might use something like you could have a yoga strap. This one is extra long. And what I love about, I'll demonstrate how to use an extra long strap, but you could also use like a belt or a towel, something that you could use to, again, just extend your arms. Back in the 80s, we had this show called Inspector Gadget, and it was like go gadget arms. So when you use the props, you can think about how it helps extend your abilities. Then you might have a pillow, or this is a yoga bolster. I have a round one, and then they come in flat ones. You could also have a blanket, and a blanket could provide a lot of cushioning. So if you don't have a bolster, you could use pillows. You hopefully have a blanket around, or it could be a towel. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and just allow ourselves to settle in. So we're going to get started in a restorative shape. And what do I mean by that? Restorative is basically, that's a whole, actually, we talked earlier in the introductions about kind of different styles of yoga. And this is a gentle yoga class, so that we can have a lot of different options and variations. But there's a whole entire class called restorative yoga, where you literally prop up with all kinds of cushions and props, and you lay and relax. So what we're going to do is start this restorative shape. What you could realize is that you might be able to, maybe you want to stay the whole time in the restorative shape and not have movement. And that is actually really wonderful practice as well. And it can be a little bit harder than it sounds. So what I like to do is take a blanket, make a small roll, and then this is going to go underneath my heart center. So right underneath the shoulder blades. So as you line that blanket roll up, you can bring yourself to lie back on it. If you find this to be uncomfortable, then just nix the blanket, just come flat on your back. You could bring your arms out into cactus shape so that your elbows are maybe touching down on the ground. If you find that your arms are way up here, you might bring some kind of support like blocks underneath the forearms. Or you could bring your hands to rest on your belly. And this would be a really nice way to help you connect with your breath. As you begin to settle, maybe you allow your feet to walk as wide as the mat and allow your knees to tent together. This is actually called constructive rest pose. And just allow yourself a moment to settle into the earth. Start to bring awareness into the body, softening through your shoulders. So much of that energy, right? That effort to keep the shoulders lifted. Just allow them to settle back and down. And bring your awareness into your breath. This magical gift. We call the breath in yoga pranayama. And it's basically our life force energy. It's what fuels us. And even without controlling the breath, we're able to allow it to breathe us. This is the connection between what we intentionally do and what our body just automatically does for us. As you deepen your breath, feel the rise and fall of your belly. Feel the support of the earth all along your body, allowing you to soften all of your effort. There's an idea in yoga called stira and sukha, which is effort and ease. How can we balance this effort and ease? And I think this is a really revolutionary act in our American culture where we feel like we have to go, go, go. How can we allow and soften? As you rest here, start to feel the weight of gravity. Imagine it as a giant hug from the universe. And as your mind wanders out into the universe, you might look and see, do you have a specific intention for your practice today? Something you'd like to cultivate, or even something you'd like to release. As I mentioned at the beginning of class, coming into the yamas and niyamas, maybe your intention for your practice today could be to cultivate ahimsa, which means nonviolence. So this is the very first yama. And I just have a quote from the book by Deborah Adele. She says, nonviolence is so valued that it stands at the very core and foundation of all yoga philosophy and practice. She says, ahimsa means nonviolence, to do no harm. It calls forth from us our most brilliant and best self. Our capacity to be nonviolent depends upon our proactive practice of courage, balance, love of self, and compassion for others. So as those words sort of rain down on you like little drops of rain, just see where they fall. Notice what might be an intention for your practice today. Maybe it has nothing to do with that. So whatever would make most sense for you, imagine that intention as a glowing jewel. Each of the yamas and niyamas are such treasures, they're actually called jewels. So imagine that jewel, whatever your intention is, allow it to plant itself at your heart center. And as you breathe, imagine that jewel glowing brighter. Inhaling, the light is filling your body and it begins to shine out through your skin. And the rays of light radiate out into the universe. As you exhale, you can practice that ease, allowing your jewel to glow a little dimmer, fade, soften. Go ahead and take 3 more nice deep breaths like this. And then we're going to begin to invite a little bit of movement into the body. So you can extend your arms out wide into a letter T shape. Walk your feet as wide as the mat, and then allow your knees to soften to the left. You might turn your gaze over towards your right hand. Inhale brings the knees and nose back up to center, and then exhale, allow them to switch sides. You can continue to move at the pace of your own breath. And you might prioritize moving softly, gently, and just really allow yourself to savor the experience, noticing the sensations in your body. Bring your awareness there. Imagine your heart center has a little machine that creates little bubbles of gratitude. Allow those gratitude bubbles to spill out from your heart center and circle around any areas of the body where you feel sensation. You feel that gentle curve in your spine. You can send your breath there. And then just allow yourself to come back to neutral whenever it feels right for you. From here, we'll keep the feet on the mat. And then as you extend your arms out beside you in a letter T shape, on your exhale, bring the right arm over the top of the left and give yourself a nice big hug. You might gently rock a little side to side. And if you've decided to keep that blanket roll there, you might just experience a little bit of massage along your spine. Send your breath deep into the back of your body, what some consider to be the seat of self-care. And then we'll come back to stillness. Inhale once more to open the arms out wide to the sides. And then bring to mind someone you might like to send a special blessing to. That could be someone who's here today, someone in your life that you know needs extra support. Bring that person to mind and then gather up your gratitude for them. And this time we'll bring the left arm over the top of the right. You could stay here in stillness, giving that big hug. Or maybe it feels good to gently rock a little side to side. If you have that blanket roll underneath you, you might notice yourself traveling up and down that roll. So maybe as you rock side to side, the blanket roll might be traveling a little further down the back. Take one more nice deep breath here. And then you can release your arms back out into that letter T. Just notice once more that feeling, the sensation of the blanket roll. And you can also decide at any moment, hey, this lady's crazy. This is not comfortable. Move it off to the side. We all have such wonderfully unique bodies. So for some, this might be like, yeah. Others, no, not so much. So allow yourself to just check in. And then we'll inhale the arms up to center, point them up towards the sky. Exhale, bring them down towards the hips. On the next inhale breath, you can float the arms up and overhead. Reach them past the ears. Allow the fingertips to rest behind you. On the next exhale, lower the hands back down. And you might even start to pick up the head, curl the chin towards the chest. Inhale, lower the head back down, reach the hands up any amount. Some of us were talking about shoulder injuries, so only do what feels comfortable for you and your body. Go ahead and move at the pace of your own breath, and we'll take 3 more rounds like this. And you might curl the chin up. Remember, these are all options. Find what feels comfortable for you, recognizing that you are your own best teacher. Only you knows what's going to work best for you and your body. It's okay if it looks different from day to day and side to side. The next time you lift your arms up overhead, go ahead and rainbow them out to the sides. And then we'll bring them down next to the hips. You can lift the hips, pressing your heels into the mat. Slide your hips over to the right. Allow yourself to roll over to the left. And you can press yourself up into a seat. We're going to clear the blanket roll off to the side now. And then actually, while we're seated, let's come up to a seat. Let's just stay seated for now. So you could use your blanket as a seat. So it's actually, sometimes it can be hard to sit cross-legged. So if you want to sit in a cross-legged seat, it can be nice to bring the ground up to you. Either like I showed you, I took my blanket and folded it. You can fold it to make it thicker. You could use several blankets, or you could even bring a pillow. Sometimes people like to sit on a bolster. So if you bring your seat up a little higher, that can help to lengthen your spine. Another way that I love to sit, but this wouldn't be probably so great on the knees. I don't like to stay here sometimes for too long, but something you can do with the blocks is you can sit in what's called hero's pose on your knees. So you take two blocks, you might bring them in between your shins or your ankles. So I made a little stack with my blocks and then sit on the blocks. And this can help to lengthen your spine as well. So find what kind of position is going to work best for you. We call this cross-legged seat crisscross applesauce. No, I'm just kidding. We call it, in yoga, they call it easy pose Sukhasana. But as I mentioned, it might not be easy. So if you prefer to sit in a chair, or maybe it's hard to bend the knees, and so you could always straighten the legs, would be another option. So find what's going to work best for you to come to a comfortable seat. As you sit, we can press the hands just gently into the legs to give a little bit of lift to the heart. Allow the spine to lengthen and allow your chin to gently tuck towards your chest. And as you begin to arrive here, we'll exhale, begin to bow your head towards your heart. Allow your awareness to gaze down at that glowing intention at your heart center. And just notice the bright light, the power of that intention. And then on your next exhale, you can bring your right ear towards your right shoulder, a slight amount. You don't have to overdo it. In fact, you might back off even 10% more. But allow that stretch to happen all along the side of the neck. And this is a tool that we can use even in your everyday life. You're sitting at a computer, maybe you take a moment to close the eyes and you allow yourself to find that gentle stretch on the neck. As your ear rests towards your shoulder, allow your opposite shoulder to sink away. And then we're just going to practice some head nods. So you can begin to lower your chin towards your shoulder. And then as you inhale, lift your chin up towards the sky and notice yourself saying no. Maybe call to mind one thing you'd like to say no to. And imagine yourself gracefully, softly saying no. You don't have to have an anger response. Maybe we could just allow ourselves to practice the art of saying no and how important that is to our boundaries. And then once you've said no enough times, we're going to practice saying yes. So you can inhale, start to nod your head yes. Call to mind something you'd like to practice saying yes to. And one more time like this. We'll come back to neutral And you can bow your head once more towards your heart. Exhale all of your breath out. And then we'll slide the ear over to the other side. Finding that stretch, maybe along the opposite side. Allow your shoulder to melt away and maybe even back off 10% more from your edge. We'll do our 3 no nods. Shaking the head no. Sending your breath into any areas of sensation here. Practicing saying no. And then nodding the head yes. Allowing yourself to say yes. Feeling that bright light from your heart center. On the next exhale, we'll come back to stillness. Bring the chin towards the chest. Inhale to lift the gaze back to center. Just allow a little lightness here. Feel like almost an expanse from the neck. Feel that softness. And then we'll inhale, roll the shoulders up towards the ears. Exhale, allow them to cascade down the back. 3 more shoulder rolls in this direction. And then we can reverse the direction. Inhale, roll the shoulders up towards the ears. Exhale, allow them to cascade down in front. And as you move your shoulders, can you release any tension that might be living there? One more round. Exhale through the mouth as you come back to stillness. Next, we're going to move to tabletop, but I know that might not be everyone's favorite position because of knee sensitivity. So you can do the same stretch that we're going to do seated. So I'll just show you what that would look like seated. If you are seated cross-legged, you might lean back, extend your legs long, give the ankles a little rotation, and then cross your ankles maybe the awkward way, if that feels okay. We have like all these habitual patterns that we might notice in yoga, like, wow, that feels awkward. So if you're going to do cat-cow from a seat, once more, you can place your palms on your knees and then inhale to lift your heart. That's cow pose. Exhale, round into your spine. We call that cat. Okay, so if you're wanting to do that from a seat, go ahead and stay seated. If you'd like to try it on your hands and knees, you can use the blanket for a little bit of padding on the knees. So I unfold my blanket to make it kind of flat. I don't actually need a lot of padding here though, because I'm on several carpets, but it still can be very nice and luxurious. Give yourself all the supports. If you're using blocks and you don't want to be on your wrists, another option is to take the blocks on the medium setting and to bring the forearms onto blocks. Or you could simply bring the forearms onto the earth. So I'll come back to tabletop with the palms underneath the shoulders, the knees underneath the hips, and then we're going to take a few rounds of cat and cow here. So you can inhale to drop the belly, lift the heart. Exhale to round into the spine. Draw the belly button towards the spine. And go ahead and follow the pace of your own breath. Allow yourself to really explore your spine, expanding through your vertebrae and just noticing. After a few rounds of cat and cow, you could explore other movements. So maybe you start to draw a big circle with the belly button. stretching into all the corners of your spine. As you move your spine, if you find any places that are particularly juicy, that's what Crystal Peterson used to call it. That was my yoga teacher at PCC. She would say, if you have a place that's juicy, extra interesting, maybe you stay there for a breath and hold that position, breathing into that space. As you move your spine, you might marvel at what an amazing design. How intricate. If you're rolling your spine in one direction, allow yourself to find the opposite direction at any time, moving at your own pace with your own breath. Take one more nice deep breath wherever you're at. And then we'll meet up in tabletop in a neutral spine. From here, we're going to find child's pose. So child's pose is one of the more popular yoga shapes. You could bring your big toes to touch, open your knees wide, sink your hips back, walk your hands out in front, allow your forehead to drop all the way down to the ground. If you find that the ground feels too far away, this is where we might use a prop. So if you had a pillow or a block or a bolster, I bring the bolster in between the knees and then allow the torso to rest, bringing one ear down to rest on the bolster, allowing the arms to rest at your side. And this pose is called balasana. That's the Sanskrit. So oftentimes in yoga classes, you'll hear teachers give the Sanskrit name, and that just means child's pose. If you're resting on the bolster and you have one cheek on the mat or on the bolster, you could turn your head at any time and rest the opposite cheek. And that might feel like a delicious stretch for the side of the neck. One thing I love about yoga is it feels like a massage that I can give myself. Sometimes we want to book a massage, and those therapists, they're like 2 months out, right? You can't get in. But you can always give yourself the massage of yoga. Bringing awareness and breath to any areas of the body that feel stuck, that are holding tension. Sending gratitude for the body. Take one more nice deep breath in your child's pose, and then you can press up to tabletop. From here, we're going to come into thread the needle. And I don't have a good clear wall space, but I know that in terms of if you were wanting to do any of these shapes at the wall, you could essentially do the same thing I'm doing. Can't demonstrate it, like I said, because I have this big bed in the way. But I'm going to show you thread the needle next. And this pose, if you had a wall space, you could literally stand at the wall. And we're stretching through. The thread the needle is essentially this pose right here, where you're holding your arm. So if you did this from a chair, this could be your thread the needle. Stretching through the shoulder blade. But if you're on hands and knees, I'm going to show you thread the needle from hands and knees. So essentially our legs stay just like child's pose. And then we're going to bring the left arm, you could sweep it up, opening through the heart, lifting the arm up towards the sky. And then exhale, this hand is going to thread underneath. And you could bring your head all the way down to the ground, Or again, if it feels too far away, you might use that bolster or block. This could work for underneath the head. Might be too high. I'm trying to situate it here. So feel free to give yourself permission to experiment. You could continue to support your weight with your right hand, or you might walk your right hand out in front like child's pose. Or some people spin that right hand around and rest it at their low back. So find what would work best for you and your body. Allow yourself to just bring awareness to those areas of sensation. If you're in a seat, you might look like this, holding your arm across, bringing breath and gratitude into those areas. If you find that your mind starts to wander towards ideas of the past or plans for the future, allow yourself to come back into your present moment, into your body and into your breath. When you're ready to release from this pose, we can land the palm back underneath the shoulder. So you're going to draw your left hand back up, come back into tabletop. Maybe pause here and take a few rounds of cat and cow. Just stretching through the spine. That was a nice spiral. There's a little bit of a twist to the thread the needle. So we'll find that cat cow, that neutral spine. And then from here, you're going to try thread the needle on the other side. So you might plant your right palm, sweep, or that's the left palm, sorry, sweep the right hand up towards the sky, opening through the heart, reaching up, and then exhale, thread the needle under. Allowing yourself any supports that would feel good in your body. Either keeping that left hand planted for support, walking the fingertips out in front, or spinning the hand around to rest at the low back. Personally, me, I like to keep my hand on the mat because it helps me find that stretch. So it's totally fine to explore. And remember, if you're seated or even standing, you could use the wall. Imagine the wall is like this hand here. Just finding that stretch for the shoulder. Where do you feel it actually? It might be different. And it might be a little different side to side. Our bodies aren't completely symmetrical, and we've had different experiences on each side of the body. So can we offer ourselves some compassion and curiosity? Take one more nice deep breath in your thread the needle, and then we'll plant the left hand on the mat. Press into the mat to come back up into your tabletop. From here, we're going to try exploring some variations of a forearm plank. And what I love about a forearm plank is it takes that pressure off of the wrists, and it still is a very good core strengthening. In fact, this is the pose that my massage therapist just yesterday recommended, because if we can strengthen our psoas muscles, is that it? The psoas, I think she was talking about, that can help our low back. So and you could do a forearm plank at the wall as well. I feel bad now that I don't have a good wall space for this, but essentially just imagine the floor is the wall. So you can come to forearms and then start to walk your knees back. And you could stay on the knees, or you can tuck the toes under. Maybe you play around with lifting one leg at a time, stretching each leg back or both at the same time. And you can always change your mind and come back to your knees. You might feel a bit of trembling in the core. And whenever you feel ready, we're going to come out of the forearm plank and land on the belly. So you can allow the belly to come onto the earth, plant your elbows underneath your shoulders, stretch each leg back, untucking the toes, finding length through the front of the body. We'll press the palms into the earth and energetically draw them back as you lift the heart forward. This pose here is called Sphinx pose. As you're finding that nice gentle back bend, allow the shoulders to melt away from the ears. And then on your next exhale breath, turn your gaze to the left, any amount, finding a little stretch for the neck. This is like the backing up the car pose. Inhale, I just made that up. Inhale, bring it back to center, and then exhale, turn to look the other way, any amount. Inhale back to center, and then on the exhale, you can stack the palms, lower the forehead down, rest your head on the back of your hands. We call this one Makrasana, crocodile pose. Allow your forehead to rest here. You might bend the knees, kick the heels up towards the sky, and maybe you allow the heels to gently sway from side to side. A nice massage for the belly. When you're ready, you can soften your feet down to the mat. We'll lift the head, slide the hands back behind you, allow the back of the hands to rest at your sides, and then you can turn your gaze to the left. Now, if your temple doesn't quite touch the mat, you can tuck your toes under and then glide your body a little bit forward, and that might make more space for the forehead to touch down, for the temple to touch down. Take a moment to fully rest all of your effort here, softening through your shoulders, softening through your glutes. And then on the inhale, we'll peel the chest off of the mat, float the arms, float the legs, balancing on the belly. This is called locust pose. And you can strengthen through your spine. Imagine yourself a flying superhero, floating over the earth. And then on the next exhale, turn your gaze in the opposite direction, so maybe to the right, softening all of your effort, relaxing through your glutes, allowing your temple to rest on the mat. We'll take one more nice deep breath here. Allow yourself once more to delight in a time of rest. And then you can draw your palms underneath your shoulders, tuck your toes under. We'll press up through tabletop. And then I will want to give you the option for downward facing dog. So I'm going to move the blanket off to the side. And we do not have to do downward dog either. And you can also do downward dog with a chair or at the wall. So if you're going to do it on the ground, you might use blocks. and plant. I used to usually like to use them on the low setting. You can bring your palms onto the blocks. Make sure that the blocks are not going to slide out from underneath your hands. And then tuck your toes under. Lift your hips up and back. So this would be downward dog with the blocks. You can walk your feet towards your hands to make it a little gentler. You could also use a tabletop, or the wall. So if you're going to use the tabletop, you can bring your hands to a tabletop, walk your hips back, and this could be your downward facing dog. And then you would do the same thing if you had your hands at the wall. It's too far away from me. So take your time, pedaling your heels, maybe sashaying your hips. And then whenever you feel ready, you can walk yourself forward to a forward fold. I like to turn my hands or the blocks onto the high setting, plant the palms on the blocks, or you could bring your hands to your shins or your upper thighs and then press into your support to inhale and lift up halfway. We call that halfway lift with a flat back. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale once more, halfway lift. And exhale to forward fold. Now we're going to sweep the hands up, rising up to stand. Reach your hands up towards the sky, and I realize my head is now cut off. Exhale, draw the hands to your heart center. And then you can release your hands to your sides, coming into mountain pose. We call this Tadasana. So in mountain pose, we're teaching our body how to stand. Let's start with the feet. You might close down the eyes and allow yourself to find center by leaning forward, maybe leaning back, and find the center. Allow your legs to activate. You might slightly lift the kneecaps. Feel your tailbone rooting down towards the ground as you slightly tuck the belly in, finding some activation in those deep core muscles to help support your low back. And then you can allow your arms to rest at your sides with your palms face open. Feel your buoyant heart. Feel your head, your crown reaching up towards the sky. Allow your chin to slightly tuck, lengthening through the back of your neck. Here we are, strong as a mountain, rooted down. Bring your awareness into your heart center, feeling the glow from your intention, your jewel, your inner light of awareness. And then we'll inhale, blink the eyes open, circle, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale to swan dive forward into your forward fold. Inhale here for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. And then however you like, we're going to make our ways onto our backs. So you could step it back into downward dog if you like. And maybe you feel like you want to soften onto your knees. You can walk your knees forward and come to lie on your back. So believe it or not, it's almost that time, our final resting pose for our first introductory yoga class. If you'd like to, you can bring some supports underneath the knees. You might bring a bolster to rest underneath the knees. And this is our time of relaxation. This is the time when we get to soften all of our effort. And we call this pose corpse pose, Shavasana. And it might be one of our most important shapes, really, allowing you to fully rest the body. Allow your forehead to soften and imagine any thoughts that are coming to mind as beautiful, graceful butterflies. Allow them to gracefully, softly flutter away. Allow your jaw to soften. Relax your shoulders, allow them to melt into the earth. Imagine for a moment that you're laying on a cool slab of clay. Feel the impression that your body is making on the earth. This unique impression that is you. This unique impression that only you can make. Feel the universe smile upon you and embrace you, holding you to the earth in the form of gravity. Imagine gravity like a weighted blanket, holding you so secure, so loving, allowing you to relax all of your effort. Feel all the places that your body is making contact with the earth. Feel that support, that steady, reliable, bountiful earth. Everything you need right at your fingertips. Feel how it is to be held and supported. Know that you can come back to this feeling at any time. Now bring your awareness into your heart center where your intention lives. Notice the glow from that jewel. Allow it to fill your body with light. Allow the light to shine out of the pores. Allow those rays of light to jet out into the universe. And then bring your awareness there. Imagine yourself floating out in the stars. You yourself are made of stardust. And as you rest your awareness there, allow yourself to feel delight, awe, and wonder at what a miracle it is to be here today, alive right now in this unique time and place. A time like no other. What a tremendous gift. Take one more nice deep breath floating there, and then allow your awareness to drift slowly like a feather falling to the ground. Allow it to settle back into your body. As you inhale, feel the expanse at your heart center. Allowing your heart to grow in all directions, increasing your capacity to give and to receive love from your heart. And then allow your intention to consume your whole body, sending it all the way down to your fingers and your toes. Reimagine what it's like to be alive. And then allow your fingers and toes to reanimate. Allow your wrists and your ankles to gently rotate. And then find a long body stretch, reaching your arms past your ears. You can slowly kick any bolsters that might be underneath your knees out in front. And then press your feet on the earth. Slide your hips over to the right. Allow yourself to roll onto your left side. You might allow your head to rest on your arm. Take a few rounds of breath there, and then you can press yourself up into a seat. Bring your hands to meet at your heart center. And you're welcome to join in or listen in, and we'll chant together one round of Om. And then if you'd like, you can sing with me Shanti, 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 which means peace, peace, peace. Go ahead and exhale all of your breath out. We'll take a nice deep breath for Om. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. You can allow your head to gently bow towards the wisdom of your loving heart. It's such an honor and privilege to guide you through your practice. Thank you all so much for being here with me today. And please let me know if you have any thoughts or questions about class. And thanks again, everyone. I'll stop the recording now.